And that's why we call it the protective use of force. Only as a last resort would I use defense. But in our world, we now make preemptive strikes. We don't have to wait for someone else to be violent. We be violent first.
We can think that that person might be an attacker.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I believe in the power of connection between human beings. I believe that when we learn how to, you see, why do we use guns and armies? It's because we don't have a more intelligent, clear how to. And when we learn that we can transform the amygdalas of our brains that cause us to react violently, that we can reprogram the amygdala through coherence, that young men who grow up in violent societies and are trained for violence can be retrained by learning how to achieve coherence, and that coherence can overcome those reactions that they've learned. You see, that's what I think that people give up on. They think, well, these people, you know, that's just the way they are. That's just the way they are, that there's no hope because that's their programming, that's what they're taught, and you can never overcome it. I don't believe that. I believe that through learning how to be coherent, how to connect to ourselves instead of project violence, and how to connect to the other, that we can overcome that. And if we put all of our attention on that clear how to, instead of money and attention on defense, that we would be able to overcome that way of being. Yeah.
So I hear you saying that perhaps in the past we had to resort to arms, like in the case of Hitler, but it's just because we were lacking this understanding that you're expressing now.
Exactly. We didn't know how. We
So-
didn't know how individually or collectively to do it differently.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it would be useless to say they were right or they were wrong,
Yeah.
because it's the past.
That's right.
And we have to face the future now.
That's
Yes.
right. We were
Yeah.
just all ignorant, you know. I mean, what I've learned about peace myself in the last 5 years has created a different person here.
I notice your priority is peace. It's one
Yes.
of the most important things. But there's this other aspect of poverty, that because of poverty, sometimes people want to steal your camera, grab you by the neck and take your dollars, because the inequality, the world that we live right now. And how would you answer to people say more important than peace is equality? Because if we don't have equality, then that is the source for rage.
Yes. Well, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that the how-to of personal peace and the transformation of our institutions, of our economies, is essential for peace. And in this stage of my life, I've been focused on developing this national model of peace. And once we have this well-grounded, and we have a rasur at every high school in Costa Rica, my next dream is to close the gap between the rich and the poor. And actually, I grew up with a father who almost every day of my life has spoken to me about that exact subject, and who has an inspired idea for how to close that gap. And so as soon as I complete this stage of my work, I see myself working on that exact problem, on how we close the gap between the rich and the poor. How do we create a different economy so that everyone prospers? And not by forced redistribution of income, but through actually a tax system is the way that I see it happening, a different tax system than we've had.
Because people might say, well, tax is a force, it's
Well,
coercive.
I suppose you can see it that way.
Oh, but you mean, and violent means that I come and steal your camera, that's more violent, but
Yes.
tax is coercive, but it's perhaps necessary.
Well, I see it more as responsibility, that if I am a part of the whole, then I have a responsibility to the whole. So for me, it would be just a part of my joy of giving if I knew that I was giving to a system that was equitable and that created the right conditions for everyone to be creative and prosper. So I would not consider that coercive, but my joy
Responsibility.
my responsibility to give to a system that really created a better world. So when I think of tax, actually, and you think about it being coercive, I really think about a tax, particularly on land and natural resources, as more of a rent.
Now you're from the States,
I am.
and do you see the same need in the States?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I feel called to my own country this year. In 2010, I'll be working primarily in the U.S. Because I brought my work here in Costa Rica to a point where the Costa Ricans on the board of the Reservoir Foundation here are moving it forward. They know what to do, and the legislation is in place. This model I described to you, which is the inside out, bottom up, top down, and all around, it's all there. The framework is all set up now. And so now I'm looking at how to replicate it. How do we replicate this? And right now we have invitations from South Africa, Palestine. We've been to Denmark in the past, and they are actively working on BPs. And Australia. So we have invitations from other countries, and it is our aim to go and support other countries to replicate the model. But now, with Reservoir Foundation International, a U.S. nonprofit, we are able to give the tax deduction to U.S. donors, and we'll be working in U.S. schools. We're already starting hubs for BPs in Texas, in Florida, in Missouri, probably Wisconsin. So we are rapidly developing BP's hubs in the U.S.
I think it'll be a lot more difficult in the States because they have such a big budget for army, for war rather than for peace.
Yes.
Here it was perhaps easier step because the culture of non-military was here already.
Yes.
But in the States it's going to be a lot harder because a lot of people depend on the income from the army, whether through their jobs manufacturing weapons or through their military jobs. Is Dennis Kucinich bringing that bill to the Congress too, or has he done it? And where is it at?
Well, I know they have a bill in Congress, but I'm not informed in the latest on that bill. I do know that they have created a National Peace Academy in the U.S. I'm on the advisory council of that academy.
Where's the academy?
It is being launched by Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland.
Oh, okay.
And so I was so honored to be a part of founding that academy. And they are beginning now to offer courses and to really, let's say, close the gaps in the peace organizations in the U.S. They're looking at really grassroots peace programs and moving forward as a very powerful National Peace Academy.
You said you're working with training instructors. So are you officially qualified or authorized to give certificates of peace, degrees on peace?
Well, we have not been working with universities until recently. We started doing some training for the UN University for Peace in the last year.
Where is that UN University?
It's about 15 minutes from here in
Okay.
Ciudad Colón.
I hear United Nations, I thought New York.
No, it's right here in Costa Rica. It's the only university for peace that has the ability to grant degrees, graduate degrees.
Great.
And so I've been doing some training for them in their executive institute. But in January, this month, I will be teaching the first 40-hour Peace Foundations course at the UN University for Peace. And they have granted 2 credits to their students for this course. So in that sense, this is the first certification, or we're now offering credit hours at the university level for master's degrees at the UN University for Peace.